Hey guys, Chad Wesley Smith here from jtsstrength.com, answering your questions as a part of Squat Week. One of the most common questions I get about squatting is what kind of shoes should you wear? These are currently the shoes that I wear to squat in, Nike Romaleo 2s. Just picked these up maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. Really like them so far. I made the switch to these shoes from Adidas Ironworks, which I wore previously, because they have a slightly smaller heel. The Ironworks were about 1.25 inch heel. Romaleos are a 3/4 inch heel. I felt like that inch and a quarter heel was pushing my knees too far forward in the squat, and I'm able to sit back and keep a little bit more vertical shin angle with these Nike Romaleo 2s. You see tons of people squatting in Chuck Taylors. Westside made that really popular. I've never worn Chucks, so I can't really speak to it, but I definitely prefer a slight heel. It makes the ankle mobility easier to hit depth. If you're a raw squatter, you're most likely squatting with a narrow to medium stance relative to a geared squatter, wide stance. And if you are squatting in that medium to that narrow to medium stance, I think you definitely want a heeled shoe. I did my first powerlifting meet wearing a pair of Nike Frees, and people were blowing me up on the internet, saying, you'd squat 20 pounds more if you wore Chucks or if you wore weightlifting shoes or whatever. And I never even thought about it then. I just wore my Nike Frees and trained hard and squatted 800 pounds. So you can be really strong and wear Nike Frees as well. I wouldn't wear those now. I made the investment in these shoes, and they are pricey, but it's if you're taking your training really seriously, if you're competing, it's a worthwhile investment, because a nice shoe like this is going to last you for years. So as far as squatting in Chucks, if you're squatting with a super wide stance, maybe that's the best shoe for you. But I don't think there's really any raw lifter out there who's squatting with a comparably wide stance to a geared lifter. So even if you were a wide stance raw squatter, I would suggest to you a shoe maybe like a Adidas Samba, which has maybe a 1/4 inch heel on it, just because there inevitably is going to be some forward movement of the knee in the raw squat, and there should be some forward movement of the knee in the raw squat, because that's going to help you recruit your quads better. And if you're like me, my quads are the strongest thing I got, so I want to make sure to get my quads involved. So right now I squat with a stance about this wide, however many inches that is, I can't really tell you, but that wouldn't be relevant to you because you're not built the same way that I am. When I squatted 905, I was probably in a stance about this wide, just about 2 inches wider than where I'm at now. But I squatted that 905 with the Adidas Ironworks on, which is again a shoe with a 1.25 inch heel, and that I would say that I was squatting with a very wide raw stance. For that, I know Eric Willowbridge squats in his Adidas's with a very narrow stance, and you'd have to ask Eric on YouTube or on his training log at jtsstrength.com about why he chooses those shoes. But Nike Romaleos right now are the choice for me. 3/4 inch heel. I definitely prefer the Olympic lifting shoe. They got that real solid base, whether it's wood like I had on the Ironworks or this fancy Nike Power Bridge on the Romaleos. But it just makes you feel like connected to the ground. Your foot's not moving around in the shoe. I'd also suggest that you probably get a half size to 1 size smaller than you would in like a running shoe or cross trainer shoe, just because you don't want your foot moving around at all. So you want to squat big, make the investment in a high quality pair of shoes. But if you have to choose between buying nice shoes to squat in and buying good food for yourself to eat, choose the food every time, because that's going to make you squat more than any pair of shoes will. But that's my 2 cents on footwear for the squat.